The morning sun over Los Angeles glistened like it, too, had RSVP to the biggest wedding of the year. The Cross Estate in Beverly Hills stood like a castle, glass walls gleaming, marble floors reflecting gold drapery. Chauffeurs lined the driveway. Paparazzi crowded the gate like a festival. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the couple the internet called Hollywood's royal match. Evan Cross, a powerful movie producer whose name rolled with film credits and billion-dollar franchises, adjusted his tux as journalists shouted his name. Beside him was Tanya Blake, his fiancée, an actress with a perfect face and a reputation sharper than glass. Every movement of his looked rehearsed, every smile, every gesture, every blink. Their union wasn't just love. It was branding. Two empires merging under one hashtag, the Cross Blake wedding. Behind the scenes, unnoticed by cameras, walked Amora Daniels, a Nigerian immigrant working as an assistant to the wedding planner. She wore a neat black uniform and a small silver pendant around her neck. Her dark, radiant skin gleamed under the LA sun, her eyes calm but weary. She was 5 months pregnant, though her loose dress hid it well. Her life hadn't always been like this. Back in Lagos, Amora had been a film student, passionate about storytelling. But life had thrown its cruel twist, a charming boyfriend who promised marriage, only to vanish when she got pregnant. She'd come to the U.S. chasing stability, not fame. When Evan first noticed her, she was carefully arranging orchids. "You have an eye for balance," he said kindly. Amora straightened, nervous. "It's a lighting, sir. The flowers look brighter near the window." He smiled. "You sound like a cinematographer." She blushed slightly. "Film was my dream." He laughed softly. "Then welcome to your set, Miss Daniels." It was harmless, professional. But across the room, Tanya watched, the curve of her smile tightening. She leaned toward her stylist and murmured, "Why is a help talking to my fiancée?" The stylist shrugged. "She's part of the crew, Tanya." "Then she should know her place," Tanya hissed, eyes narrowing. By evening, the estate sparkled for the rehearsal dinner, but somewhere beneath the music, jealousy was already tuning its first note. The ballroom shimmered under crystal chandeliers. Champagne flowed, guests laughed, camera flashes bathed Tanya never in golden light. Yet Tanya's laughter felt forced, her smile polished but strained. From the corner of her eye, she caught Amora helping an elderly guest to her seat, soft-spoken, graceful. It shouldn't have bothered her, but it did. Something about Amora's quiet dignity gnawed at Tanya's insecurities. Then it happened, the moment that cracked her composure. A reporter asked Evan, who designed this floral arrangement, "It's stunning." Evan smiled. "You'd never believe it, but one of the assistants suggested the layout." Amora, right? She's got a natural sense of storytelling. Guests laughed approvingly. Tanya's wine glass nearly slipped. She smiled through clenched teeth, her hand tightening around Evan's arm. "Darling," she whispered, "maybe stop giving credit to staff? People might think you're too generous." Later that night, Tanya cornered Amora behind the ballroom curtains. "You seem to be getting a little too comfortable around my fiancé," she said softly, venom-lacing her words. Amora blinked, startled. "I was only doing my job." Tanya's smile was cold. "Then do it quietly. The cameras came for me, not you." Amora nodded, retreating like a shadow. Tanya watched her go, whispering under her breath, "No one steals my spotlight." That night, Tanya scrolled through social media and found what she feared, a candid photo of Evan and Amora adjusting decor, both laughing. The caption on a gossip blog read, "Who's the mystery woman behind Hollywood's favorite couple?" Her blood boiled. She threw her phone onto the bed. "Not in my story," she hissed. By morning, the blogs were everywhere. Hollywood Unfiltered, Starwire, Glam Talk. Is Evan Cross getting too friendly with the help? The internet, cruel as ever, amplified the gossip. Evan dismissed it with a sigh. Clickbait. Don't feed into it, Tanya. But Tanya couldn't ignore the whispers. Even among friends, she caught smirks and side glances. Every polite compliment felt like mockery. Meanwhile, Amora endured the side effects. Other staff began whispering, avoiding her. When she entered a room, laughter stopped. Her supervisor warned quietly, "Stay invisible, Amora." The bride's nose are bad enough. That night, alone in the staff quarters, Amara sat by the window journaling. The moonlight hit the page as she wrote, "The world loves to break women twice, once when we fall and again when we rise." The next morning, she arrived early, determined to ignore the tension. But Tanya had plans. As Amara walked by, Tanya said loudly, "Some people don't know boundaries. Working at a wedding doesn't mean you're in it." Laughter rippled among her friends. Amara froze, humiliation burning her cheeks. She turned quietly and left. Behind Tanya's laughter hid something darker, fear. Because deep down, she saw something in Amara she didn't have: authenticity. The big day dawned bright, clear, and mercilessly hot. Cameras lined the gates, helicopters hovered, the press called it the wedding of the century. Inside, Tanya was a storm disguised in silk. Her gown, hand-stitched diamond and lace, sparkled brighter than her smile. But her eyes, restless, watchful. Amara worked in silence, double-checking seating charts, adjusting floral arches, ignoring whispers. She hadn't slept all night. Her back ached, her belly heavy beneath her uniform. Minutes before the ceremony, Tanya noticed a small tear in her veil. Panic flashed in her eyes. "Someone fix this," she barked. Amara was nearest. She stepped forward gently. "It's just a pin." As she reached for the veil, Tanya's paranoia exploded. "Don't touch me," she screamed. Amara froze, and before anyone could move, Tanya's hand flew across her face. The sound, sharp, shocking, cut through the music. Guests gasped. Cameras turned instantly. Evan shouted, "Tanya, stop." But Tanya wasn't done. "She's been flirting with you. Everyone saw it," she screamed, trembling with fury. Amara stumbled back, hand on her cheek, eyes wide. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, her voice trembling, and collapsed. Screams filled the air. Evan rushed to her side. Security pushed reporters away. But the damage was done. Every camera had caught it. The video, raw and unedited, was already uploading to the internet before the orchestra even stopped playing. The wedding was over. The humiliation had just begun. By nightfall, the internet was on fire. #Justice for Amara and #Hollywood Slap topped global trends. TV anchors replayed the footage on loop. TikTok remixes used it as background for empowerment videos. Evan's PR team panicked. Tanya's agents quit. Sponsors withdrew. Every frame of that slap became a weapon. Meanwhile, in a small hospital on the outskirts of Los Angeles, Amara lay on a bed, pale but breathing. The doctor smiled gently. "The baby's fine. You're lucky." Evan arrived hours later, guilt written all over him. "Amara, She turned away. "Please leave, Mr. Cross. You've done enough." Outside, journalists swarmed. The world wanted her words, her tears, her outrage. But Amara said nothing. Tanya tried to apologize online. She uploaded a tearful video, mascara running. "I was stressed. I didn't mean it." But the world wasn't buying it. Her followers turned on her. Sponsors canceled contracts. Movie roles disappeared. Within 3 days, her empire crumbled. Within 3 days, Amara disappeared. No press statement. No trace. No farewell. The internet speculated. Did she go back to Nigeria? Is she hiding? Did Evan help her escape? But Amara wasn't hiding. She was preparing, because humiliation wasn't her ending. It was a beginning of something that would shock the world, the kind of revenge that doesn't come from hate, but from rebirth. 6 months after the slap that shook Hollywood, the noise had quieted, but Amara's heart hadn't. The Lagos Heat greeted her like an old friend, loud, honest, relentless. She stepped off the bus at Ojalegba with nothing but a suitcase, a few $100s, and the faint hum of courage left in her chest. Her baby was due in a month. The gossip blogs had long moved on to new scandals. Tanya Blake was still trending occasionally, but only for mockery. Evan Cross had gone silent. But Amara, she was rebuilding in quiet places. She found a small one-room apartment in Surulere, cracked walls, flickering bulb, but haze. The landlady, Maman Kechi, smiled kindly. "You're alone." Amara nodded. "Don't worry, my dear. Lagos may be loud, but it is a way of embracing broken people. Days became routine. Wake up, eat bread and tea, help a tailor in exchange for meals, then rest under the sound of distant traffic. She was invisible again, but this time it didn't hurt. Her friend Ada, who worked in media, visited one afternoon. "You're hiding, Amora." "I'm healing," Amora said quietly. "There's a difference." Ada sighed. "Healing is good, but don't confuse it with running." Weeks later, Amora found part-time work at a small post-production studio owned by Chicken Wosu, a kind but blunt filmmaker. He discovered her editing talent when she volunteered to fix a short film. "You edited this yourself?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, sir." "You have an eye for emotion. That's rare." Working again gave her strength. The smell of coffee, the hum of the monitor, the art of storytelling. She felt alive. Every cut she made on screen was a cut away from her past pain. Every night, she whispered to her unborn child, "You and I, Eden, we will bloom from the dust." The night came without warning. Heavy rain, flickering lights. Amora screamed, the contractions gripped her body. Ada and Maman Ketchi rushed her to the nearest hospital, small, crowded, but filled with warmth. After hours of labor, she heard it, the first cry, a baby girl. She named her Eden. As she held her newborn, tears rolled down her cheeks, a mix of pain, gratitude, and quiet victory. "You will never be ashamed of where we came from," she whispered, "because grace grows from places people forget." Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Tanya Blake's world was collapsing. Her mansion was on sale, her movie deals gone, her social media flooded with hate. "You're canceled forever," commenters wrote. Even her friends abandoned her. Evan tried to reach Amara but couldn't. The guilt haunted him. He'd built his success on stories, but he hadn't protected the woman who lived one of the most brutal ones. Months passed. Amara worked nights, raising Eden by day. Money was tight, but her joy was abundant. Neighbors adored the baby. Ada called her the little miracle who survived Hollywood. One evening, as the sun set over the Lagos skyline, Amora whispered to her sleeping daughter, "They thought they destroyed me, Eden, but they only planted me." It was a humid Tuesday afternoon when her phone buzzed. The caller ID showed an American number. She frowned. "Hello." A familiar voice came through. "Amora, this is Evan." Her pulse quickened. Silence stretched. "What do you want?" she asked sharply. "I saw the short film you edited for Chicken Wosu Studio. You're gifted." "That's none of your business." "I know, but I want to make it right. I'm doing a documentary series on redemption. I want you to tell your story, in your words." Amora laughed bitterly. "So my pain is entertainment now." "No," he said quietly. "It's inspiration. You don't owe me forgiveness, Amora, but the world deserves your truth." That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat on the balcony, the hum of Lagos below her. Ada joined her. "You should consider it. You're already a story. Amora, why not own it?" Amora looked at her baby sleeping peacefully. "If I tell my story, it won't be for pity. It'll be for women like me, the ones they called weak." Ada smiled. "Then speak. Loudly." By dawn, Amora had made her choice. The camera lights were softer this time. Not the blinding glare of Hollywood tabloids, but the warm glow of truth. Amora sat on a simple stool in Chicka's studio, wearing a white blouse and no makeup. Evan's production crew was there, silent, respectful. When the interviewer asked, "Why now?" she took a deep breath. Because silence can be noble, but sometimes it lets lives live too long. She told everything. The job, the humiliation, the slap, the hospital bed. But she didn't speak with bitterness. Her voice was calm, like waves after storm. "I was never angry at Tanya," she said. "I was angry at how the world clapped when she humiliated me." The footage was raw. No background music. Just truth. When the documentary premiered online under the title The Maid Who Wasn't Silent, it broke records. Millions watched. Women across the world tweeted their stories under #BuiltFromGrace. Talk shows called it the most powerful testimony of quiet strength. When a reporter asked if she wanted to press charges against Tanya, Amora said simply, "No, my peace is my justice." Her quote spread like wildfire. Overnight, Amora went from that pregnant helper to a global symbol of grace and power. As the documentary soared, Tanya's reputation sank further than ever before. Clips of her slap replayed beside Amora's calm narration. Brands at once offended her publicly severed ties. In desperation, Tanya launched a charity initiative called Heal Her Hands, filming herself giving food to the homeless. But one of her own staff secretly recorded her saying, "Don't touch me, they smell awful." The footage leaked. Within hours, the internet exploded. #fake charity queen trended. Her last brand deal dissolved. She lost her house. She disappeared from public view. Hollywood called her uninsurable. Meanwhile, Amora's calm silence turned her into a phenomenon. Her story became part of university lectures, empowerment events, even church sermons. Evan met her again, this time, humbly. "You didn't just survive, Amora," he said quietly. "You changed what surviving looks like." She smiled faintly. "I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But sometimes, peace ends up looking like victory." And it did. Because while Tanya was hiding from the world, Amora was rewriting it, one film, one quote, one woman at a time. Evan Cross stood at a press conference in Los Angeles, the same city that once filmed Amora's humiliation. This time, the cameras were on him for different reasons. "I owe my understanding of strength," he said into the microphone, "to a woman Hollywood called a helper but heaven called a fighter." The whole erupted in applause. Backstage, his assistant slipped him an envelope. Inside was a single flight ticket, Lagos, Los Angeles, business class, with a handwritten note, "For the woman who taught us grace." Days later, Amora received the invitation. Her first instinct was to tear it up. "LA is cursed ground for me," she told Ada. Ada smiled. "Sometimes God sends you back to the place that broke you, so you can walk out crowned." After much hesitation, Amora agreed. She packed Eden's clothes, kissed Mama Nkechi goodbye, and boarded the plane. When she landed, the paparazzi were waiting, not to shame, but to celebrate. Cameras flashed as she stepped out, elegant in a white linen dress, baby Eden in her arms. Her head was high. One journalist called out, "Miss Daniels, how does it feel to return?" She smiled softly. Different sky, same God. The red carpet event for the maid who wasn't silent was electric. Stars, producers, and global icons filled the theater. As she walked in, whispers spread. "That's her. That's the girl who forgave Hollywood." And in that moment, Amora realized she hadn't returned to be accepted. She had returned to take her space. The gala dinner buzzed with laughter, lights, and champagne, until it didn't. Tanya Blake walked in uninvited. Her hair unkempt, eyes swollen, the glamour gone. The crowd's laughter faltered. Cameras turned like hunting dogs scenting scandal. She saw Amora across the hall, poised, serene, radiant, and something broke inside her. She stormed forward, tears spilling. "You destroyed me." Tanya cried. "I lost everything because of you." The room froze. Evan stood immediately, but Amora gestured for him to stay back. She looked Tanya dead in the eyes, voice calm, almost gentle. "No, Tanya, you lost everything because you built it on other people's pain." Gasps filled the hall. The cameras caught every second. Tanya fell to her knees, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I was jealous. I was stupid." Amora's eyes softened, but she didn't move closer. "I forgave you long ago, but forgiveness doesn't erase consequence." Then she toned, lifted Eden from her stroller, and walked out through a storm of flashing lights. The clip hit the internet within minutes. Amora wins. The slap comes full circle. Across social media, people called it the most graceful confrontation ever captured. And Tanya Blake? Her meltdown trended for the wrong reasons. She had screamed for sympathy. Amora had answered with silence, and that silence roared louder than any insult. A week later, Amora stood on the grand stage of the Women in Global Media Conference, Lagos edition. Thousands filled the hall, millions watched online. Cameras rolled, waiting for her first major public speech. She adjusted the microphone, her white gown flowing like peace itself. "When I was humiliated," she began, "I thought silence meant defeat. But silence, when guarded by purpose, becomes strategy." The crowd leaned in. "I learned that revenge isn't power. Peace is. I learned that forgiveness isn't surrender. It's how you rise without losing your soul." The audience erupted. Women wept. Influencers reposted. Celebrities quoted her lines across social media. Her speech flooded timelines and newsrooms alike. Even Hollywood anchors called her a modern symbol of grace under fire. Evan watched from the front row, clapping until his palms burned. Tanya, watching from a motel TV in California, wept quietly. That night, Amora's speech trended globally. "They tried to silence me. Instead, they broadcasted my strength." Her followers tripled. Offers poured in. But fame didn't change her. She still went home, put Eden to bed, and whispered, "We're doing this with grace, my love. Always grace." With the proceeds from her documentary and her new influence, Amora launched Eden Films, a Lagos-based production company dedicated to giving women a voice. She opened the studio in a refurbished warehouse painted white and gold, her favorite colors for peace and strength. She hired single mothers, survivors, and talented youths with no formal education. Her motto hung over the main entrance: "Tell stories that heal." Her first short film, The Slap That Built Me, swept African film festivals. Critics called it raw, haunting, empowering. Hollywood took notice. Evan called from Los Angeles. "Amora, let's collaborate again. I want to help produce your next film." "On one condition," she said. "It must be shot in Lagos, our soil, our voice." He agreed instantly. Together, they created a cinematic masterpiece blending African truth with Hollywood technique. The world loved it. The trailer alone hit 50 million views in a week. As production wrapped, journalists whispered, "Are they just co-producers or something more?" Amora ignored the gossip. She wasn't chasing love anymore. She was building a legacy. Yet, late one night, as she stood watching Lagos lights flicker across the lagoon, she caught herself smiling when she thought of Evan. It wasn't romance. It was peace finding its way home. One warm evening after filming, Evan found Amora on the balcony of the studio rooftop, the wind tugging gently at her braids. Lagos glowed beneath them. "You know," he began softly, "I've spent my life producing stories. But you are one." Amora smiled faintly. "Stories aren't meant to be perfect. They are meant to be true." He stepped closer. "You taught me that." She looked away, voice low. "You're late, Evan. I learned truth the hard way." "I know," he said. "That's why I'm not here to save you. I just want to stand beside you wherever you're going." She met his eyes then. For a moment, time paused. Below them, the Lagos traffic hummed like applause. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She just whispered, "If we do this, it's not Hollywood love. It's real love, built from ashes." He nodded. "That's the only kind I want." It wasn't a fairy tale kiss. It was something deeper. The soft meeting of two people who had survived storms and chosen peace over ego. And as they stood together under the Lagos sky, it was clear this wasn't a sequel to the scandal. It was a beginning of something honest. Los Angeles again. The city that once devoured her name now whispered it with reverence. But not everyone was ready to move on. Tanya Blake resurfaced. Her once famous face now gaunt, her tone bitter. She had nothing left but anger. At a press conference streamed live, she announced, "I'm suing Amora Daniels and Netflix for defamation and emotional damage." The internet exploded. Again, people sighed. Some mocked her. Some pitied her. But Tanya believed this was her last chance to reclaim relevance. Her lawyer argued that the documentary ruined her life, lost income, lost friends, lost reputation. But Amora's team came prepared. Evan's studio produced every contract, every timestamp, every recording showing Amora had told only the truth. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed like lightning. When Tanya took the stand, she broke down mid-testimony. "She forgave me in public just to destroy me in secret," she screamed. Amora rose slowly from her seat, her calm presence commanding silence. I didn't destroy you, Tanya, she said softly. Truth did. The same truth you ran from. The jury needed only 2 hours. Case dismissed. Outside the courthouse, journalists crowded her. What's your reaction, Miss Daniels? One asked. She smiled gently. No one wins when the goal is revenge. But everyone heals when the goal is truth. The clip went viral instantly. #TruthWins, #Amora Daniels flooded timelines. That day, the woman who was once silenced became the voice of integrity, and even her enemies couldn't deny it. Comma. Months passed. Amora returned to Los Angeles, not as a maid, not as a guest, but as a producer. Her film, Grace Unscripted, was being shot in the very mansion where she had once been slapped. The irony was poetic. She stood on the same marble floor, watching camera crews move under her direction. Action, she called, her voice steady, powerful. Everyone on set paused for a moment. They knew her story. Working with her was like witnessing living proof that purpose can rise from pain. During a break, she walked into the grand hallway, the same spot where Tanya's slap echoed years ago. For a moment, she stood there quietly. She whispered, I forgive this place. That night, the entire crew gathered for dinner. Evan made a toast. To Amora Daniels, the woman who turned scars into scripts. Cheers erupted, and Amora laughed for the first time in a long while. Not a polite laugh, but one that came from peace. Later, while tucking Eden into bed, she whispered, We came back stronger, didn't we, my love? The child smiled in her sleep. Amora turned off the light and looked out at the Hollywood skyline. This time, she said softly, I own the story. It was the final night of filming. The wrap party glowed with music, laughter, and champagne. Evan found Amora standing outside, overlooking the city lights. Her white dress fluttered in the soft wind. You know, he began, we've told so many stories together, but the one I want most hasn't been written yet. Amora smiled. And which one is that? He took a deep breath, pulling out a small velvet box. The story of us. For a moment, she froze, not from shock, but from reflection. She looked at the man who had once been part of her humiliation, but had become part of her healing. I don't need a ring to prove I've won, she said gently. He nodded. This isn't about victory, Amora. It's about partnership, about peace. She opened the box, a simple gold band, nothing flashy, just elegant. She smiled faintly, then let it be simple. No cameras, no headlines, just truth. He slipped it on her finger, eyes glistening. You're the only producer I'd ever surrender creative control to, he joked softly. Amora laughed, and for the first time, her laughter didn't carry pain. Their engagement wasn't a spectacle. It was quiet, sacred, rooted in mutual respect, the kind of love that grows in the soil of redemption. Months later, the world gathered at the Dolby Theatre for the global premiere of Grace Unscripted. The red carpet gleamed under golden lights. Cameras flashed nonstop as Amora arrived in an emerald gown with Evan by her side and little Eden clutching her hand. Fans screamed her name. Journalists whispered, That's her, the woman who turned a slap into a legacy. Inside, the theater was filled with A-list stars. Even former critics sat in awe as the movie began. Scene by scene, Grace Unscripted told Amora's true story, from humiliation to healing, with brutal honesty and unmatched elegance. When the final scene faded, the hall went silent for a beat, then erupted into a standing ovation. People cried. Some shouted her name. In the shadows of the back row sat Tanya Blake, uninvited but unnoticed. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, She deserved this all along. After the show, Amora saw her leaving quietly. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Amora smiled, not in arrogance, but in mercy. Tanya lowered her head and walked away, finally at peace. That night, Amora didn't just premiere film. She premiered closure. The world had seen revenge stories before, but none like Amora's. Hayes wasn't about payback. It was about purpose. The next morning, social media exploded with clips of her acceptance speech. She stood on stage holding her award, golden light dancing off her face. I wasn't born powerful. I was broken, then rebuilt. Every slap, every scar, every shame became my strength. They called me invisible, but God doesn't hide masterpieces. He reveals them in time. The audience rose. The applause was thunderous. Eden clapped from her seat, her tiny hands echoing the sound of victory. Evan wiped a tear. That night, the city of Los Angeles, the same city that once humiliated her, was lit up with billboards of her film. One headline read, "From maid to mogul, Amora Daniels redefines grace." As dawn broke, Amora sat on her balcony, watching the sunrise. Her phone buzzed, a message from Evan. "You didn't just survive, Amora. You made the world believe again." She smiled and whispered, "No, God did." And with that, the woman the world once laughed at became a symbol of power, purity, and perseverance. Her story closed not with vengeance, but with victory wrapped in grace. #built from grace, #Amora Daniels story, #Hollywood justice, #true to life drama.